Get ready for dictation, please. 5 seconds. Start. Madam Chairman, yesterday also a similar subject was discussed, and I think all the speakers more or less pressed for 3 points, namely for the fixation of a minimum price for raw jute, for the abolition of intermediaries in the purchase of raw jute who are actually speculators and agents of the mill owners, and for the export trade of raw jute to be taken over by the state trading corporation. Today the debate is particularly about the fixation of minimum and maximum prices of raw jute. Several times this matter came up before this house, and the government's plea was that jute goods being an export commodity, it will be very difficult for the government to fix a minimum price of raw jute. Their argument on this point has almost gone so far as to say that it will ruin our export market and we shall lose the entire foreign exchange we have been getting. That is a wrong apprehension of the government. Last year's experience has shown us that even at the rate of rupees 60 per mond of raw jute, the jute industry has been able to maintain itself. Another apprehension of the government is Pakistan has not only raw jute, but it has also started the manufacture of jute goods. We have always to compete with Pakistan, and if we fix any minimum prices of raw jute, that may give undue advantage to Pakistan. I think the government know that Pakistan several years ago established a sort of government monopoly. I think Jute Board or something like that is the name of the institution which controls the purchase of raw jute and also the export of jute goods. I think they have also fixed some minimum price and maximum price for raw jute. If Pakistan could have done this and yet not only maintain but develop their export market in manufacture of jute goods, I do not know how Pakistan competition can prevent us from fixing prices for raw jute. The experience of the last 2 years should have made the government somewhat wiser. In 1959, the price of raw jute was as low as rupees 20 per mond. In 1960, it went up to rupees 60. Yet the industry and export of jute goods went on. But no industry can survive with such a rapid and sharp variation in the price of raw materials. In 1947, after the partition, the position of raw jute supply was very precarious. Bengal, Assam, and some other states were particularly asked to switch over their agricultural production from paddy and other things to jute. Bengal did it at the sacrifice of her production of paddy. For that, Bengal has had to suffer all these years. They have had always to pay a higher price for rice, which is the main or practically the only food for Bengalis. The cultivators of Bengal, Assam, Bihar, and Orissa have produced raw jute in sufficient quantity. It is the obligation of the government to protect the interests of these cultivators who have produced raw jute, which is of strategic value for the government. Now, if the government fail to give protection to the cultivators, they should realize that the cultivators won't grow raw jute as actually they did last year. If this year also the cultivators are let down and their interests are sacrificed to the interests of jute mill owners, next year also they won't grow raw jute. the Indian export trade will suffer and India will have to depend on the mercy of Pakistan for the supply of raw jute at whatever price Pakistan government may fix. This is the position with which we are faced now. We must ensure a proper and adequate production of raw jute in this country. If that is the policy of the government that adequate raw jute has to be produced in the country, there is no other alternative but to ensure a fair and economic price for the cultivators. This is the simple proposition before the government and before the country. I can understand that in view of the fact that jute goods are mostly export commodities, though there have been some recent increase in the internal consumption, there may be some difficulty in having a rigid formula about fixation of prices. Prices may vary according to market conditions and also according to the cost of production for the growers. But as in the case of the cane growers, if necessary, the government should subsidize the jute growers. In 1959, I made a proposal that the government should give some price support to the jute growers, in that at the maximum they might have to incur a loss of not more than rupees 2 crores, but they might have made some profit also. Nobody was sure of that, but government ultimately took up the proposal half-heartedly and gave it at the last moment to the State Trading Corporation, which could not do much at that late stage.